What's going on, guys? So I know it's been quite a while since I've posted a lot of videos. I've still been playing in the background here and there, not nearly as much as I have, but that's going to change in the near future. But this is a video I've wanted to make for quite some time because I've been playing the game for about 19 years now, which is kind of scary to think about. But I kind of wanted to go through the history of the game for me personally, how I got started and kind of the journey along the way and what's gone along with that, and kind of some cool stories I have here and there, and some nostalgia for certain mixes or songs and whatnot, and how that came about. So I started playing in 2003, and I was military, so we moved around like every 3 to 4 years, and we moved to South Carolina. It's a place called Goose Creek. And on base, we had a little arcade. It was like a half restaurant, half arcade, called Captain Robert's The Dive. Kind of a strange name. Half the restaurant was like, I guess like food court style. It had 4 restaurants. I specifically remember one of them was an A&W, and then there was like a pizza place, a frozen yogurt place, and like a coffee place. And then the second half of the building was a full-blown arcade. They had classic stuff, at the time, like Carnival, so I got really into that. I have some nostalgia for that game too, Star Wars trilogy, but I also had Dance Dance Revolution Max 2. And this is the first time I ever really saw the game, and it looked pretty interesting, and I decided to give it a shot, but not knowing what to do. The first song highlighted in the game is A Minute. That's the name of the song. And that was a real nostalgic song for me to this day, because it was the first song I ever played. And this particular machine was 50 cents for 3 songs, so a pretty good deal at the time. And I decided to play that song A Minute for every song for that, because I was kind of too scared to navigate around the menuing. But I determined that it's going to take a long time to get good at the game, and I didn't really want to go back to the arcade for a while, so I think this was like summer time frame for 2003. Well, I ended up asking for Max 2 USA for Christmas, which I got, one with 1 or 2 foam pads. I think it was just 1. But I ended up practicing on that for quite some time, a couple months, until I passed this is like in 2004, early 2004 range we're getting into now, until I passed my very first heavy chart, which was Let's Groove. And then I immediately told myself and my friend, as soon as I passed it, I was like, alright, we're ready. I'm going to go to the arcade. And it was on base, so it was a bike rides away. And that's when I started going to the arcade on the regular. And at that point was every Friday, Saturday, sometimes days in the week. I got a $10 allowance, so 50 cents for 3 songs actually went a long way. I seem to remember how it would usually go is Friday nights I would spend about $8 worth, and then Saturday I would spend the other 2, and then on Sunday or random days during the week I would try to do extra chores in order to get like another $1 or 2 to be able to run up there and play. Let's see, some notable stuff at the time. So I remember Oni mode, or the non-stop mode for that, like just seeming impossible. I discovered speed mods pretty early on from GameFAQs, just looking up like codes for the game, and they treated that as a code, the option menu. So the idea of playing on 1X was just impossible. I also remember like some of the first songs that really kicked my ass physically were Max 300 on standard, not heavy, and Witch Doctor on heavy. I remember panting, being out of breath so bad on those. It was pretty funny. I think it was also like early mid 2004 that I discovered Stepmania. There was a guy that would go there on the regular. He was older. He was probably in his early 20s at this time, and he taught me about Stepmania and DDRfreak.com and how to download the songs and get it working. So I started practicing on that, while I was also practicing PS2 USA, but I was using the controller for that. I wasn't using the home pad anymore, for obvious reasons. Graduated 8th grade, you know, summertime 2004, and I got Max 1 USA around that time. Started playing that, learning more songs. But around this time, the arcade that I was playing at on base was pretty bad. The pads became pretty unplayable, and almost nobody played there anymore. So I started making the transition to a mall called the Northwoods Mall, and they had a cyber station in there, and they had a machine running Max 2. I also, for that Christmas, I got a metal pad. I can't even tell you what brand it was at the time. It seemed amazing back then, but of course it wasn't super great. But I wasn't able to play at home as much as I wanted to because we lived on base in a little townhouse on the second floor, so it was real shaky playing on the second floor. So I could only play here and there. Trying to think, we might be getting into 2005 now. They actually had a DDR tournament. Well, hold on, I think we got... Okay, so at some point... I'm reading my notes here. So the arcade upgraded to DDR Extreme, except it was called Megamix, which years later figured out was actually a bootleg. And there was actually a tournament that they were having at the cyber station. It was like win a PSP or something like that, and I played in it. I got 3rd place, surprisingly. I was not the 3rd best player there. I think I just got lucky. I actually met Justin Denning at this tournament in 2005, and like him and his crew from somewhere South Carolina, what is it, like Myrtle Beach area. They were on a whole other level compared to all of us. I think he got 1st place in this tournament. I do remember there was some other Navy dude that was just destroying, like, Paranoia Survivor Max, Oni, and all the other 10s in the game. I actually think maybe he won. I don't remember his name. I don't think he went on to continue playing. Let's see. I do remember before we even had the fake Extreme, or the bootleg Extreme here, I would often visit my grandparents in North Carolina. They lived near Rocky Mount, so we'd go visit the mall in Rocky Mount, and they had DDR Extreme, so it was pretty cool being able to see some of that stuff. You know, I don't want to say early because the game had already been out, but early for me. I also remember around this time I would take the MP3 files from the Stepmania, and I actually burned CDs of all the music. And then I went on to put these on my PSP and listen to them when I'd go to bed. I think I remember, I listened to music, DDR music specifically on that PSP more than I actually played. So I'm in high school at this point. I wrote a lot of notes, so bear with me. I was still practicing on the home mixes, so I'd still get like Extreme 2 as they came out. And I was getting pretty good at the game. I could pass like 10s at this point, but I wasn't getting AAAs or anything. I think, yeah, it was in 2006. I was in 10th grade. For some reason, I grew really bored with the game. I specifically remember I told one of my friends, it's just hitting arrows. That's all the game is. I don't know why I boiled it down to that simple phrase, but it was enough to kind of get me to stop playing. That summer we also moved to Virginia Beach because, like I said, Dad was military. So that also didn't help. You know, now I'm in a whole new area. I don't know anybody that plays. I don't even know where you can play. But at some point I went to a local mall, the Greenbrier Mall in Chesapeake, which is only one town over. And lo and behold, they have a cyber station and they have DDR Extreme. They also had a new game I never heard of before, In the Groove, that looked like DDR, played like DDR, but wasn't DDR. I wasn't really quite sure where it came from, but I specifically remember they were playing, 2 players were playing a course mode that now I know is called Driven, and it had a lot of visual modifiers. that blew my mind. I thought the game looked wild and out there and very difficult, but I quickly learned that they had a PS2 version of In the Groove 1 that I picked up, and I started practicing that with the previous metal pad that I had from a few Christmases earlier, because at this point I had a setup in the garage, so it was no big deal to play pretty much whenever I wanted. I stuck with In the Groove probably exclusively from like 2006 to 2007, and I think, yeah, I got back into DDR at some point. It wasn't right away, but when Supernova came out, this Cyberstation was actually able to get a brand new Supernova machine, which leading up to this, you know, me and everybody else in the community were like, oh man, you know, brand new dance game, this thing's gonna play amazingly. You know, we're gonna get so many good scores. Well, you know, come to find out years later that machine, the North American machines, were made by Raw Thrills. And as you know, they are not known for their quality, so the machine, brand new, was not as good as you would expect it to be. The local arcade tech, Derek Williams, he tried to make it work as best as he could, given how shitty that it was designed, but eventually we as the community grew really bored of Supernova pretty quickly and just went back to In the Groove. I seem to remember the arcade also had to get rid of Extreme to be able to get that machine, and oddly they got rid of the Supernova to get Extreme back at some point, which is pretty hilarious. Let's see, 2008. So around this time, I started getting really into Guitar Hero and Rock Band, so I actually abandoned DDR and In the Groove like entirely. It didn't help that, I don't know if the community was really the issue, or just I wasn't getting out there enough, but it just didn't seem like the popularity of the game was really quite there. Not that that always drove me to play. I mostly played on my own anyway, but just being at home playing Guitar Hero Rock Band more just kind of got me out of going out to the malls and such. So 2008, and that's also the year I graduated high school and started college. I didn't really get into DDR at all, but in 2009 I had a really bad semester in college. I believe it was the spring semester. It was a pretty low point in my life mentally, but okay, so I think it was the second semester after that I started to do a little better, but I discovered a YouTube channel. I don't know what caused me to do this, but I remember I just had a burst of nostalgia for DDR, and at this point I had never played anything older than, you know, Supernova Extreme once those became the norm, so I never did get to play Max 2 again, even though it was the first mix I ever played. So I always had a nostalgia for the song A Minute, like I've, you know, discussed. So I searched that on YouTube. I never really got into YouTube for DDR videos, but I searched A Minute AAA, and I discovered a player, Nick Denty from Rocky Mount, who was posting up AAA videos of a bunch of old mixes, mostly 4th mix plus and 5th mix stuff at the time, but sprinkled in there was like the Max exclusives, the Max 2 exclusives, which is how I found him, because he had a AAA for A Minute. And he was playing on a very strange machine that I've never seen before, a Solo 2000 cabinet, and I thought that was really cool. And I didn't even subscribe, because at this time I didn't really have like a YouTube like account. I don't know, that wasn't really like a common thing. So I remember I just saved his channel as like a favorite, and I would come back to it like every week or so, which he was posted up there pretty regularly. And at this point I didn't really know that there was a ton of exclusive content from those old mixes. I mean, I definitely knew Max 2 had exclusives, because I remember when Extreme came out I was really sad that A Minute, Justify My Love, and Stay weren't in the games anymore. But I was learning, it felt fresh. I was learning a lot of new songs I never knew existed, and charts that were really cool. And there was a game store called Extreme Media near my college campus, and I walked in there one day, and I don't know why, but I decided to, hey man, can I use your restroom? And it was in the back of the store, which a customer usually wouldn't get access to. But as I go back there, I noticed that he has a metal DDR pad leaned up against the wall that actually still had like the blue like packing material on it, which indicated it was probably brand new. It was a Red Octane Afterburner, which is a really awesome metal pad at the time. And he said it was for sale, but I guess he had a hard time selling it, so he didn't really like have it out. But I offered him my PSP for it, the lone PSP that I would always listen to DDR music on. And he gave it to me, and I started playing again that summer using like Max and Max 2 USA. Yeah, it was in. Now we're moving into 2010, and I did stop playing for a few months, but got back into it once it started to get warm, like February, March time frame. And a friend of mine got me into like PS2 modding and like running Japanese games on it, and I was like, well, I know that the Japanese PS2 DDR games are superior because they're closer to the actual arcade version. Can you burn me copies of this game? Which he did. He burned me Extreme, and that really got me back into it. Like being able to play Extreme at home. I mean, of course, it's still about, I don't know, half the content that's in the arcade version, but it was still a lot better than the USA mix that we got. And then not too long after that, I ended up purchasing Max 2, and I was able to get that running, and then Max 1, which Max 1's a very special case because I could be wrong, but I think it has like the exact same song list as the arcade version, which, as you know, Max 1 only had like 42 songs anyway, so it was pretty low, but that was really cool to have a home mix that was virtually the same as the arcade. It might have had one or two extra songs. It's been a while. And around this time, I started getting AAAs for the first time in my life. I can't really recall what the first one was on the home versions. It might have been I Feel on Max 2, Japan. And I started transitioning back to the arcades around this time. Not often, but maybe once a week, once every other week. And I went back to the Cyberstation in Greenbrier, and I played and got my first arcade AAA, which was 20 November. Kind of an odd one that you would get as your first arcade AAA, being that song's kind of off sync. But because I had been practicing the home version so much, it was pretty good. At this point, I'm playing almost every day. My drive to play was really huge. And at some point, I discovered that there's a movie theater. It's pretty much on base, but not quite, in Norfolk. It's called like the Phoenix Theater, but they had an Extreme machine, and it played really well. I don't know who gave me the tip about that. It might have been Tony. But I ended up going there and got a couple more arcade AAAs, including Freckles, and that might have been it. It wasn't a whole ton, because I only went there maybe once or twice, but the machine played incredibly well. But I still kept playing at home until around October. It started to get kind of cold in the garage and really killed my motivation to play. And then around this time, the Cyberstation announced that they were going to be shutting down. And I remember they had like the one final night to be open. I think it was like November time range, but I noticed that a good chunk of the community was starting to play at another arcade that was also in the same mall called Jillian's, which later got renamed GameWorks, and they were playing Pump It Up Fiesta. And I don't know, I just couldn't get into that game. I'm not trying to bash Pump It Up in this video, but I don't know, the game seemed more like focused on like stamina or like really crazy looking shards, rather than being like technical like I was used to. So I really couldn't get into it, and then that combined with that arcade closing down and the garage getting kind of cold, I just stopped playing altogether. 2011 and 2012, pretty weak years. I don't even know if I played at all. But in 2013, I started to come back to the game, and I was going to I didn't have my home set up anymore. I don't know what happened. I believe I gave that to a friend. It still worked very well, but I thought maybe it could get him into playing if I gave it to him, and I don't think that ever happened. I'm not even sure if he still has it, but I started going to the arcade on the base again, the theater. At this point, nobody was playing DDR at all, especially there, so the machine was pretty much to myself. I'd play maybe once or twice a week. I know I played every Friday after school, because at this point I was going to Old Dominion, which was in Norfolk, so it was only maybe 10 or 15 minutes away, so I'd hit the arcade on the way home. But I played there for probably like a good an hour to 2 hours. And I actually started recording a lot of videos for the channel at this time, and a lot of my early videos are actually at that arcade. The machine itself played pretty well, but the monitor had issues. If you watch some of my early videos, you can see that the monitor was definitely hanging on there. But it still played pretty well. Somewhere around mid 2013 or so, I noticed Nick Denty posted a video on his YouTube channel where he got a doubles machine, and like I said previously, he was playing a solo machine, which is in short a one-player cabinet. Has a lot more uniqueness than that, but that is what it boils down to. And I hit him up on Facebook, because at this point we were friends on Facebook, and I just asked him, well, what do you plan on doing with the solo machine? And he said, well, I'll probably sell it once I finish getting all the 6-panel AAAs. 6-panel is like a really unique mode that you could do in the solo mixes, Solo 2000 and 4th Mix Plus Solo. And of course I told him, I want to be the first in line to buy that if you do sell it. And he was pretty cool. He was like, well, I'll keep you in mind first when I'm ready to sell it. But in the meantime, he was having a fighting game tournament down in Rocky Mount, and he invited me to go to it. It's only like a 2.5-hour drive, so I decided to go. And even though I'm not really into fighting games, but after the tournament, he invited me to check out his private setup that he had, which was really impressive. He had the solo machine, he had the doubles machine, I believe he had a Pump It Up machine. I don't quite remember what Pump It Up machine, but I seem to remember it had like a projector monitor. And he let me play on the solos machine, and it almost felt like a sales pitch. What do you think? How do you like it? And I was like, I really like it a lot. It played really well. But I didn't end up buying it until quite a bit later. I also seem to remember Rocky Mount. My first Rocky Mount tournament I ever went to, I think it was in 2013. And again, I got to go play DDR with him in his private setup afterwards. But we kept in contact about when I would purchase the machine, but it took quite a while. It was like March, April of 2014 is when I finally bought it. I ended up renting a storage unit out, this place called iStorage in Norfolk. But it was a really nice storage unit. It was climate controlled, 24-hour access, and they had power outlets. And I carpeted the unit before I went down and got the machine. I had a couple friends help me. I had Nick X help me, and my friend Steve, because he had a Jeep. So we were able to use his Jeep, rent a trailer, go down there, get it. Took all day. But I finally had a really nice setup to play at. It was a bit of a challenge, having to drive, 10, 15 minutes away to, play every day. But my drive to play was just insane. I got a ton of AAAs that year. A good chunk of my early videos are in the storage unit. Of course, I got a lot of people, walking by, wondering like, man, what the hell are you doing in here? You got a whole arcade set up. I had the camera set up. because it was 24 hour, I mean, I could go play till whenever. But I mean, it has kind of a sad ending to the storage unit. I think it was in the summer, maybe like August time frame of 2014, where I went to play one day and there was a different lock on my unit than the one I purchased. And I was really confused because I pay the monthly bill on time. And I went up front and they were like, "Oh, you didn't hear? Didn't hear what?" Well, there were some people living in one of the units, and he decided to cook some food in there, and it set off the sprinkler system. Of course, my first thought was that all my stuff got ruined, but they assured me it was only the hallway sprinklers. But because of that, because I had the unit carpeted, maybe about 25% of the carpet had absorbed that water and had that real bad like mildew smell. So I had to move everything out of the unit to get the carpet out. And in that time, I just asked my dad if I could just take the machine home so I don't have to deal with that again. And they also changed their policy. They were no longer 24-hour. I think they closed at like 9 p.m. So it really killed the allure of keeping it at that place. So moved it back home, continued to play, but it started to dwindle a little bit. I can't really quite put a finger on why. I don't know if it was because, I felt like I was, annoying my parents playing at home. Even though it was in the garage, it was still quite loud. But I didn't play as much in 2015. Still here and there, but I don't recall anything like crazy significant happening. But the end of 2015 leading into 2016, I was in talks with Nick Denty about buying a doubles machine, and that took quite a while because I seem to remember I kind of gave him half down and then half when I bought it. The idea being he was going to purchase a machine from auction and then fix it up for me, and then I picked it up, oddly enough, around April time frame. Actually, no. It was much earlier. It was January or February, actually. Yeah, so it was January or February, and then I ended up getting another storage unit back at iStorage, because there was no way my dad was going to let me keep two machines in the garage. One was already enough. So I had already moved the Solo back into the storage unit before I picked up the doubles, but I had both machines in there. And I might only have one video on my YouTube channel from a AAA on that doubles machine when it was at that unit, which wasn't very long, because in April I bought the current house I live in, and the day after I closed on the house, from some big help from my friend Kevin, we were able to rent a trailer from one of my coworkers for free. I was able to move both machines at the same time into my house. Started playing more, but it's still, I didn't have the drive to play like I used to for some reason, but it was still here and there. I got AAAs every now and then, new ones, and I have, posted those videos. But then, I think it was 2017, I was having my friend Joran over on the regular, and, of course, anytime you start having an issue with a pad, the first thought is just the sensors are bad. I'm here to tell you that now it's probably not the case. You probably want to clean and reseat everything before you start buying hundreds of dollars of new sensors, but we ended up buying a bunch of sensors. Well, in the process of opening up the pads and replacing the sensors, I realized that there was going to be a lot of work to clean these pads up, and I went down the rabbit hole of removing all the stripped screws and as much rust as I could. And I know I got the bars powder coated around this time, and I think the machine was down and out for a few months as I did all this. I wish I took pictures, but I had it stripped down to the bare metal at one point. But I learned a lot about the inner workings of the pads themselves at this time. But got it up and running again. 2018 is where things started to move a little bit more with the machine as far as like restoration goes. I got really into arcade restoration at this time, and I think it was around like August time frame. I was using a MacVision CRT in the machine, which was not the original CRT. You would think it would be better because it was a nice 480p monitor, which was perfect for like the newer games if you wanted to run DDR 2014 at the time. And the monitor ended up going out at some point or another. I didn't really know a lot about CRT monitors at the time, but I do know that those monitors are riddled with issues, which is strange considering that they were a new CRT. But I was able to source a new monitor from a buddy, Jesse, in Maryland, and he had an original CRT for the DDR machine, which of course excited me because I'm trying to restore the machine as close to the original as I can. So picked up the monitor, and I was real big into cleaning like CRTs at the time, so I washed it, got it all set up, and it worked for maybe a month or two. And one day I turned the machine on and I went inside to change. I came out, monitor's off. Okay, what now? Well, at this point I decided that I was finally going to send the monitor chassis to a place called Sharp Image Repair in Las Vegas, which I totally recommend them, by the way. And they diagnosed the chassis, they fixed it, they restored it. I got it back. It was in October because a whole bunch of awesome things happened in like the same week. So I got the monitor chassis back, I got the machine back up and running. I passed an IT certification that I needed, and then I was getting married all in the same month. So no, the same week actually. So that whole week is, you know, probably one of the best weeks of my life. Just a lot of positivity all at once. I do seem to remember that while the machine was down and out, I decided to play at the Phoenix Theater again, just because I was itching to play. And man, that machine got really rough. You can kind of tell that they didn't really know what they were doing as far as keeping up with the machine. The onboard battery must have died because all the default settings were in place, which was cool because that meant that it actually cost less than they wanted. I think they wanted, it was 75 cents for 4 songs, but the default was like 50 cents for 3. So it's kind of hilarious. They didn't know that they had to go in and change that setting every day, but that's fine. But because of that, the attract music was always on, and so they must have not know how to turn that off, so they decided to just pretty much mute the entire machine. So even if you played, you could barely hear anything, so that was kind of depressing. Also, the machine would freeze if you'd pick certain songs. Like, I remember if I picked Dynamite Rave and it would freeze. Meaning, you know, they're probably having issues with the DVD drive, but I ended up rebooting the machine and still trying to play, but it just wasn't going very well. 2019, it's a pretty cool year because I decided that this was going to be the year I dedicate to really restoring the machine as best I can. I also started playing doubles around this time. I never played doubles in the past because I never wanted to pay for 2 credits. I mean, $1.50 just to fail kind of sucked. And then, yeah, so we skipped a little bit, but at the end of 2018, Nick Denty was able to sell me a memory card readers and a control panel for the DDR machine, so I was able to upgrade the memory card units, which is pretty cool. So then I started seeking parts that I was missing. I remember I got the little Stay Cool panels that go on the back of the pads. I was able to source those for a really good price. My marquee lights didn't work, and that's because all the wiring was gutted, so I was able to get an all-new wiring harness and working light bulbs from that. I was able to get a new front glass because the decal on mine was pretty bad. I actually got that from Dr. D. He was selling a bunch of parts, around this time, and he sold it to me for shipping. I just had to pay for shipping. The glass was free. I also seem to remember I got a whole bunch of original sensors from him too for a really good price. I think like $2 or $3 a piece. And I got the entire top marquee section from him as well. That's how I got the working light bulbs, actually. Now that I think about it. Then, oh man, what else I got? Jesse was in Maryland. He was able to sell me an original plexiglass. I got a fourth mix, an official fourth mix marquee around this time. Though I opted not to use it because I was constantly swapping mixes in the machine between like fourth mix, fifth mix, max, max 2 extreme. So I wanted a marquee that would kind of make sense aesthetically no matter what mix I was playing. So I had a friend, Anthony, and he actually makes reproductions. Really nice. He's well known in the community for making reproduction artwork, decals, marquees for dance games. And I was able to get a Dance Dance Revolution, you know, or first mix, if you want to call it, marquee, and I just keep that on the machine at all times. That way it always kind of makes sense. I'm really into aesthetics. It just, I don't know, kind of irked me having a fourth mix marquee, but I'm playing, you know, Stream or something like that. Late 2019 leading into MagFest of early 2020, the one thing I needed is, like the big piece I really wanted is, even though I had the control panel for the memory card unit, it didn't have a decal on it, so it was just blank metal. And in 2019 I actually commissioned Anthony to design a new marquee, I'm not marquee, decal that I could use for it, just based off of images and stuff that he could find online, because he didn't have an original as well. And it worked pretty well, but I still always wanted like an original decal. So I was able to get an entirely new control panel from Jesse for an insanely good price. And it included the entirety of the memory card unit. So yeah, I actually have an additional memory card unit. All the readers, the control board, and everything. And you know, now here we are, you know, in the present, 2020 on. So, you know, I've just been focusing on trying to, you know, play more regularly in the past like 2 years. You know, I have a weekly get together with some friends. They come over, we play. I haven't been focusing on scores. I mean, I get AAAs here and there, but they're usually ones I've already got before, because I don't have the camera set up, so I haven't been focused on making new videos. I do have a huge backlog that I'm trying to work through editing wise, but I had accrued a whole lot in that time, so hoping to start posting those more regularly. But they are going to be like, they might seem like a new video, but I probably recorded them way back in like 2017 or so. But I wanted to start with this video as kind of a way to, you know, get back into playing more, posting more, being, you know, pushing myself more in the game, and giving me a reason to play again. So that's kind of my entire history with the game up until now. You know, I love the game. I have a lot of passion for it. I've met a lot of cool people along the way. You know, and I hope to continue to do so. So, yeah, have a good one.